We are Rogue Media Sports.
It is the Cam Show. It's Rogue Media Sports Network. It's a day of mourning for Red Sox fans as once again, the old hometown nine is not playing postseason baseball. That's the third year in a row and the fifth time in the last 6 seasons. Third year in a row is tying their longest playoff drought in the last 30 seasons. No big deal. Nothing to see here. Zach, we've also got Thursday Night Football tonight. And boy, do we. Your favorite team, the Dallas Cowboys, taking on the New York Giants.
Well, really, America's team.
Yeah, so I've heard.
They tell us that.
And what's exciting about this game, though, real quick, is that if the Cowboys lose, they suck, which would be very fun. Like this would be like total, like soap opera bad.
Yeah.
But
I'm here for that.
No one's been happy around the Cowboys anyway the last year, at least, no matter what they'll tell you. And if they have the most expensive quarterback and non-quarterback in the entire league and they suck, boy, that would be funny.
That'd be great.
That would be really, really funny. And it's teetering that way, man. They've looked bad the last 2 games. That defensive line is atrocious. They can't stop the run whatsoever. And if they lose to this Giants team, even in New York, even on a short week, if they lose to this Giants team, yeah, you got to think about firing the coach. At least. I know there's deeper issues there than that, but you can't fire an owner. So owners should think about firing the GM, though.
Yeah, it's a little different in this case, though, too.
That's what I'll say. I also come into the show, and I've got this pad of paper from yesterday, and all it says is Matt Ryan, Cam Newton, Jimmy Smith.
Oh, yeah, from our list of athletes.
I'm tempted, because we're going to talk about the Red Sox. I'm tempted to do a baseball one.
Okay.
And I'm trying to think of what it would be off the top of my head of whose franchise has the worst, best ever player.
I'll do some research there.
Please. Actually, I think that would be good. I think that would be good if you had it and I tried to think of who like the worst one was. I'll have you look that up. I'll kill some time here. I'm trying to think because like we talked about the difference with NFL. Like there are a couple that were offensive linemen. And before Tom Brady, by the way, the Patriots would have picked an offensive lineman. It would have been John Hanna. And so like those guys are pretty great, but you don't really know them. Like the Bengals would be Anthony Munoz. But basketball, like it's such a known thing. Like you should know who the best player ever is. And that's where it gets a little more embarrassing when, you know, the Nuggets would have had to put out Alex English, who was a good player. I mean, great player, Hall of Famer. But, you know, the kids these days, they're not hearing stories about Alex English from the 80s. Or, you know, who would it have been for the Mavericks before Dirk? And now we're moving the goalposts, so it's not as fun. But MLB, man, there's not a lot of like new franchises. That's the thing. The newest ones came in like 98. So you've had time to establish who that best player of all time could be. I think my pick for what franchise is going to have the worst best player.
Now, I'll tell you, I found an MLB.com article that's every team's greatest player that I'm using as reference.
Perfect. When's it from?
It's from the December of 2022.
Okay.
So I found one that was written like more recent that they did, but then they have like one player for multiple teams. And it's just like Alex Rodriguez does not belong to both the Mariners and the Rangers because they're basing it all off WAR. So,
oh yeah, don't use that.
Yeah.
One.
So I'm not.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to throw out a pick right away and we'll see if I've got it right away. I think the franchise with the worst, best all-time player is Tampa Bay. And their selection is probably...
I know who they have down here.
Carl Crawford?
No. They picked a third baseman.
Longoria. Yeah, still, like that's... Longoria is like, overall, his career is kind of a disappointment. A career that long in the major leagues and being productive and going to a couple World Series, I guess can't be seen as a disappointment, but He came in, he took the league by storm, man. He missed the first month of the season and still won Rookie of the Year. Like, I was like, this guy, not unlike Chris Bryant. I think their careers are pretty similar and obviously the same position. They're supposed to be slugging third baseman, and I don't have their numbers in front of me to compare, but in terms of the way their reputation went down, it was just like Bryant was a quicker fall off, but Longoria for the last few years was just like a league average player and was never anything special, never an MVP candidate like I thought he was going to be for years and years.
So I have one that just seems, and it's maybe a little bit of recency bias. Like I get what he did there, but just out of the entire franchise, the Marlins have, do you want to take a guess?
Ooh, the Marlins have
like all
Stanton.
That is who they have. But it just seems like he was there for like what? I guess like 6. Let me look that up.
Yeah,
before.
but let's think this through as well. Who else would you pick? Jeff Conine.
Maybe somebody on that World Series team.
But who? See, this is what we're gonna get down to here. We're gonna get which World Series team. They've got 2.
Well, Stanton didn't play for either of them.
Right, but it's a bunch of guys who just didn't stay there long. You know, I think of Edgar Renteria and Livan Hernandez and
Miguel Cabrera.
And Miguel Cabrera was very young. He was traded a couple years later. Cabrera, I think, would make a good case. He was, I think, 20 in that World Series. Josh Beckett, Dontrell Willis, good little peak there.
Yeah, I guess looking at a lot of these players, it's guys that didn't stay around long. Jose Fernandez was great, but somebody like a Christian Yelich didn't necessarily play a lot of time there. Marcelo Zuna played there for a bit, but not a lot. Not
Gary
that I'm
Sheffield
saying I put him
was
in there.
on the 97.
He was.
Team. Alex Gonzalez.
I don't know. I might put Miggy there.
Hanley Ramirez would put up a good fight, I think, but he didn't stay there long. None of these guys do. So, like, Mr. Marlin is Jeff Conine because he was there forever, but
yeah. Well, so that's what I'm trying to see. How long was Stanton in Miami?
I would say 7 years.
Okay, I'm looking that up to come.
Probably went to arbitration once with them.
Because Miggy was there for 5. He was an all-star for those 5 years. He was there. 8.
8 years.
It's the way. I'm sorry. I know.
No,
it's the best way for me just to do it.
2010 to 2017.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got the 2 Florida teams out of the way, and those are probably the 2 worst because so many of the other ones are so old.
Yes.
Or even like Milwaukee, which is not a really old team, but Robin Yount is a great player.
That's
a really great underrated player.
I have another one just to throw out there then maybe.
Sure.
What about the Blue Jays?
Ooh.
I don't necessarily disagree with their pick here, but that's a tougher one.
I'm gonna go towards, even though he didn't play for good teams, it's probably my generational bias. I'm gonna go to the late great Roy Halladay.
That's who they picked, and I get that.
You think like Roberto Alomar or something?
I think that's somebody else you can maybe throw out there.
It's a good one to throw out there. And like this guy doesn't deserve to be at the top, but like Joe Carter was more than that home run. Like he was a pretty good player. He's a 35 home run guy. Derek Bell won the MVP. He's not anywhere near there. No, you'd have to think Halladay, Alomar, like Dave Stieb, Carlos Delgado had some good years there.
Yeah. But I think...
and then you're thinking like Bautista Encarnacion.
Oh, true. Edwin was there for a bit too. Yeah.
These guys are like leading the league in homers.
Okay, hold on. I found a Yardbarker article that
that's what we used for NFL yesterday.
MLB is more spot on than this, because who do you think Yardbarker has as the best Cub of all time?
I mean, it should be obviously Ernie Banks.
That's who the MLB has, but who does Yardbarker have?
Ryan Sandberg,
third base.
Ron Santo.
Yeah.
Based off what? Like Ron Santo was a really good player, but Ernie Banks was a shortstop who had 500 homers.
Santo leads this great list in WAR, winning 5 Gold Gloves and leading the NL in walks 4 times.
Who cares? I'm sorry, but Ernie Banks had 500 home runs.
He had 342.
But Ron Santo led the league in walks. Like what?
Yeah, that was the one that stuck out to me.
Oh man, that's weird.
They have Bagwell instead of Biggio for the Astros.
I would do that. I would agree with that.
All right, fair enough.
I think Bagwell's a better hitter. He didn't hit the milestones that Biggio did, but he was a more feared hitter.
Yeah. The rest of hold on.
He still had like 450 homers. I think it was 449.
I'm trying to think who did MLB have for the Mets. Okay, no, never they both had Tom Seaver.
The Mets would be wait, I didn't hear you say it.
Okay.
Tom Seaver?
It is.
Yeah. That's what it should be.
Okay. Everything else kind of lines up, but yeah, that one was way off to me.
I'm trying to think of what would even be another out of place one. Like because then we just get into teams that are so old.
Washington Nationals.
Are they just including the Nationals?
So
that's important here.
In the
Yardbarker has no shame, man.
Yardbarker has no shame, so they're definitely
use Gary
using
Payton as the best Oklahoma City Thunder player.
They mentioned Gary Carter underneath it, so they're obviously using
the best Expo.
MLB is too, just because I know the player that they picked. So it's both Expos.
Andre Dawson?
No. Newer.
Pedro?
Newer. Well, one of them played. I think he was a teammate with Pedro. No, he might have been in
leagues.
Yeah.
Also playing in Canada.
Yeah.
Like really, Vlad?
That's
Guerrero?
who MLB has Vlad.
I think Vlad gets I think he was underrated during his career. I think he gets a little overrated post career, and I have nothing to base that off of. I just I watched Vlad Guerrero.
Yeah.
Like he was a good player. I won the MVP in 2004. He was a good player that was probably underappreciated during his time, but now it's like he's this all-time great. And I'm like, not really. Like he was, I don't know.
Yardbarker.
He wasn't a real important player on a good team.
Well, no,
for all but like 2 years of his career
with the Angels there.
Yeah. And
he was a Ranger killer, I'll tell you that.
Over to the Red Sox, but
he and Kyle Seager both Ranger killers.
Kyle Seager made a career playing against the Rangers in the same division, man.
Like that's the one guy that, like, out of all the teams in the division, I don't know if you're like this with the other teams in the division. Like I have just a tier rating of how much I dislike them, and the Mariners are one of the teams that I'm like, all right, I'm cool with the Mariners for the most part. Like I don't have any beef. Plus, like I was a massive Ken Griffey Jr. fan, so I'm sure like some of that adds in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, every time we play them, it was just like, I know Kyle Seager's just going to absolutely murder the Rangers today. He got up all the time for it. And, it was nice to see him be able to play against his brother there for a bit. Just real quick, the Nationals for Yardbarker, they went pitcher. They went with Mad Max.
Okay, that's fair. I guess Zimmerman had more of a tenure there, but I want to go back to the Seager thing. Okay. Would that be your pick? I'm putting you on the spot here.
Okay.
Like that bang average player who just killed your team.
Yes.
Would that be your pick?
It would be Kyle Seager. Yeah.
Because I had a name that popped into my head against the Red Sox big time. And now I'm looking up his numbers just to make sure. Because it was just like an eyeball test of like, man, we can never get this guy out. Okay. But this guy played for Detroit. He did play for the Rangers at one point. Played for Toronto for his best years, Texas and Toronto. So he was playing in the division a lot. Frank Catalanato.
Oh.
Remember Frank Catalanato?
Yeah, he played for the Rangers for a bit.
Yes. Career average of 290, which is, that's pretty all right, man. He played 14 years in the league. He has a 290 average for his career OPS plus over 100, 107. So 7% better than the average major leaguer. Not much of a home run guy. Okay, so keep those numbers in mind because against the Red Sox in 106 games, he hit 314 with 11 homers. He had 84 homers for his career, and 11 of them came against the Red Sox. 52 RBIs, 64 runs scored in 106 games. Like, just no rhyme or reason to it. He killed the Red Sox. He killed them. And I saw someone, it was Ty Anderson on Twitter, did like an all-time Bruins killer team. And that was kind of what it was. Like guys who weren't like all-time greats, but would just crush the Bruins. And I meant to, I kind of want to do it either tomorrow or next week, like dive into their numbers. But it was like reading off a laundry list of guys I hated growing up because they always played the Bruins in the playoffs and they killed them. So Ty Anderson has Thomas Vanek, who was like a classic 2025 goal guy, not playing any lick of defense at all. Tap in, like around the net guy, always scored against the Bruins. Steven Stamkos, Hall of Famer. So that bends the mold a little bit. Danny Briere, that prick Danny Briere, man, played for Pete's Flyers. Oh, I fucking hated that douchebag. And we would play him in the playoffs, and he had that little soul patch beard. You just wanted to fucking punch him in the face so bad. And he would always score against the Bruins. He's now the GM of the Flyers, I think. He was running the Maine Mariners. Andre Markov, who played some pretty good years with Montreal on defense, and Brandon Montour, who is still killing them. He was with the Panthers. And the goalie, the worst of all, Braden Holtby.
Ooh.
Of Capitals fame, who like made his start in his NHL career against the Bruins. The defending Cup champion Bruins in 2012 got Washington in the first round, and Washington just like ran out of goalies. Their goalies kept getting hurt, and they had to bring up this guy from the AHL, Braden Holtby, and he absolutely steals the series against the Bruins round 1, and they get a Game 7 overtime winner at the Garden because all the games in 7-game series were 1-goal games. Braden Holtby did that, and he killed him the rest of his career. And this is such good validation on Frank Catalanato that I wasn't just dreaming that. He did kill the Red Sox. That is good for me to go home with. Before we abandon this segment, though, Zach, are there any other weird ones on there on that list?
No, everything else kind of lined up for the most part with MLBs.
For Pete's Phillies, it's going to be.
It was the same name for both, but
maybe the most underrated player of all time, Michael Jack Schmidt.
You would be correct.
550 homers or so as a third baseman. Criminally underrated player.
For sure.
Most of his teams he played for were bang average at best. But did win a World Series with the Phillies, which those are few and far, far between. So that's a big thing. Red Sox, Ted Williams?
Yeah.
Who saw that one coming?
Yeah.
I'll bet there are a bunch of pink hats around my age that are saying it's Ortiz. But that's just...
Yeah, maybe.
Come on.
Pink hat? Is that what you refer to the younger fan base as?
No, pink hats are the people that the Fenway Sports Group are catering to. They go to the ballpark because they want the experience, and they just hope both teams have fun. And we're just here to sing Sweet Caroline, and I'll get a hat. It's a pink one.
Okay, I got it now.
Fucking loathe those people. Anyway, I'm not bitter about it. Yankees, I'm interested in.
It was both.
Is it overlooking? Is it just Babe Ruth?
It is.
Okay. Because I could make a good argument for Mickey Mantle.
Yeah, no, you can make a lot of argument for a lot of Yankees.
It's tough to argue.
But it was, I feel like they just had to go with that. Just like the
greatest Texas Ranger of all time.
It was the same on both.
Is Pudge Rodriguez.
Yep.
Yeah. Don't overthink this. It's not A-Rod because of the war. It's not Nolan Ryan because of a figurehead bullshit. He was at the end of his career. It's not Juan Gonzalez for the 2 MVPs. I mean, Pudge played 10 years here.
If not longer. He was a staple. And so
and did win an MVP. Shut up, Pete.
Julio Franco is not the greatest Ranger of all time. But
it's not Michael Young, for as much as everyone loves Michael Young.
Okay, here's the thing. But Michael Young is good. But Beltre bounced around too much. Granted, the fact that he went in as a Ranger was nice.
Adrian Beltre, but real quick here.
I love me some Adrian Beltre.
To me, an unbelievable career.
Yes.
Because he has a couple of good years, one real breakout year with the Dodgers, the 48 homers in 04, and then gets the big contract with Seattle. And they ran him out of town in Seattle. He stunk based on that money. They were sick of this guy. He has to sign a 1-year prove-it deal with the Red Sox, has a great year. The Red Sox don't extend him, which, hindsight's obviously 2020, but a lot of people at the time were thinking, man, why not? Why not? He goes to Texas and finishes the resurrection of his career. Has some really good years and then starts hitting the milestones, then gets to 3,000 hits, and he's a deserved Hall of Famer. But I think one of the most fascinating stories in the Hall of Fame. I mean, this guy, 10 years into his career, Hall of Fame case, his career was almost dead.
Yeah.
We're not talking Hall of Fame at that point. I should look into the numbers a little bit, but I'm telling he was a waste. in Seattle, the same way Sean Figgins was after him. Like that's people were thinking about them the same way.
Robinson Cano kind of worked out the same way in Seattle there too.
Yeah.
He had a little bit of a decent year, but then by the end,
and I'm sure Beltre's numbers were fine, but coming off a year where he hits almost 50 homers in the NL West, man, resurrects his career with the Rangers. That's
that last season in Seattle was tough. He played 111 games. He batted .265, but only 8 homers and 44 RBIs.
Who's the greatest White Sox of all time?
Don't
tell me.
Okay.
Don't tell me. Were they different on the two?
Jack McDowell. It's not. I just brought him up yesterday on Pete's show, so I'm bringing it up again. It's called a callback. No, it is. It was the same on both.
Frank Thomas?
Yep.
Thomas is a better player than Carlton Fisk. As much as I love a good New England guy who's his number retired with the Red Sox. Frank Thomas deserves that. There's Padres, Tony Gwynn. I'm trying to see if there's like a weird one in here.
There's not. Like everyone that I looked at was just like.
But here's like the Yankees one. Cardinals.
Well,
is it as simple as Stan the Man?
It is.
Okay. Pujols is pretty great, man.
He for sure. And there was a time,
but Musial had the most
where he was on
National
track
League
to
hits ever.
Probably pass Barry Bonds, but yeah.
Well,
I said probably. He kind of dealt with some injuries there for a bit too.
Musial or Pujols?
No, Pujols.
Yeah, he did get to 700 homers. He has like the third most home runs in Angels history, which is so funny to me. As much as a waste of that contract was. Is the Angels Mike Trout?
Yeah, it was on everyone.
Fair. That's probably all the questions I have.
Yeah, there weren't
Orioles is going to be Ripken.
Yep. Longoria was on Yardbarkers too for the Rays.
I just and I get it. Like that's actually a fine pick, but I just see Longoria as a disappointment. So therefore, wait, who do the Marlins have again? Stanton.
Yeah, both of them.
I am picking Tampa as this team. Tampa is the team in the MLB with the worst best player of all time in their franchise history.
Well, I think they only have one retired number too.
42?
No, it's of one player. No, and a manager.
Yeah,
I didn't realize I didn't realize they did Don
Zimmer's number. Yeah,
but they only have one player.
And it's someone. Is it Wade Boggs?
It is Wade Boggs, but it's number
Tampa
12.
Guy,
Wade Boggs. Yeah,
finished his career there. Like one of the great singles hitters of all time, who had his 3,000th hit be a homer. I think that's funny. Anyway, I do want to talk about this Red Sox disappointment and where they go from here, because 3 straight years with missing the playoffs is totally unacceptable, no matter what bullshit reason you want to give before the season of how bad they were supposed to be. This is total look in the mirror time, especially where you saw where they were at the All-Star break. We might go a little scorched earth. That's coming up next on the Cam Show. sports. I don't get that like Pete does. I talk a lot of non-sports, but we're sporty today, Zach.
We're very sporty.
Zach Burke keeping us on the air, letting us run through here. We talked about team killers. You started it with Kyle Seager. I went into the numbers with Frank Catalanato. You have gone into the numbers as well. I don't want the people to be left in suspense here.
Yeah.
Give me some Kyle Seager numbers against the Rangers.
Usually about a career like 250 hitter. He batted like 290 against the Rangers. Also,
points higher. And like a divisional opponent. So
true,
it's not like
exactly.
He's playing a quarter of the game.
At 880 OPS, which was his highest against any. It said, conference opponent, but I think it might have been any team. But also 37 career homers, which is the most against any team as well. The most he ever had in an entire season was 35. So he had at least his career best against one team.
Oh man,
like
this is refreshing for you, Zach, that you kind of eyeball tested this and got it right, because your take this morning on college football teams that ended state was ridiculous. Just ridiculous.
I was just making a point about how sad the Pac-12 seems to be. And
then,
I forgot about
and then you said, if I may. And then you said, has there ever been a team that ends in state that's any good at football?
And I forgot about every single team.
Well, Florida State has won a couple national championships.
Yeah.
Ohio State's got a pretty decent pedigree. Louisiana State, not bad.
Yeah, but like aside those guys,
Michigan State's got a national championship down there in the 60s.
And in both too. They have a college basketball one too.
They and Ohio State.
Yeah. So that's some pretty successful state schools. But like aside from those four,
you have a Texas State.
Yeah, but the Bobcats aren't necessarily that great.
Washington State has had two top 2 NFL draft picks.
Ryan
quarterback
Leaf and
number 1 overall at 93.
Why am I blanking on this?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure why you're blanking on the great Drew Bledsoe.
He was first overall?
Yeah. It was between him and Rick Mirer of Notre Dame.
Who went to Seattle?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And Parcells said, everyone was like, oh, Rick Mirer, Notre Dame, pro-style offense. How can you not pick this guy? And he just said, well, Drew makes all the NFL throws. I don't give a shit, pro-style offense or not. Drew makes the throws. I'm picking him. And come to find out pretty soon into Rick Mirer's career, he couldn't throw to his left. Couldn't do it. Couldn't throw to the left side of the field. It was yikes. They made the right call there. They made the right call. The Red Sox have not made the right call for a while now. The Red Sox lose last night to Toronto, and therefore your Boston Red Sox are eliminated from playoff contention for the 3rd year in a row. And for the 5th time in the last 6 years, they will not be playing postseason baseball. That, my friends, is what we call not good enough. You can't be the Boston Red Sox in 2024 and be missing the playoffs 3 years in a row. This is not, the early 60s. You just can't be pulling that crap. In fact, this could be the worst stretch that you could say since the early 90s, the Sons of Butch's era under Butch Hobson. In fact, 3 straight missed postseasons is tied for the longest drought in that respect since the early 90s. Since you got to go back to 94 to have more than 3 straight seasons that they missed the playoffs. Like, we're talking about the model of consistency in a lot of ways. They didn't win World Series for a lot of that stretch, but really from the 67 Impossible Dream Team on, they were not a losing ball club. Like, my dad has been watching the Red Sox since 1966, and we've seen he's seen only like one more last place Red Sox team than I have. Think about that. I was born in 1997. This is a bad stretch, a straight up bad stretch. And it looked like they were making strides, and that's not the case. The Sox were 10 games over 500 at the All-Star break. 10 games over. And they collapse in the second half again. They are 87 and 116 in the second half over the last 3 years. Let me repeat that. In the second half of baseball seasons in the last 3 years, your Boston Red Sox are 87 and 116. Awful, terrible, putrid, whatever you want to say to describe it. That's a .429 winning percentage in the second halves of seasons. When the money is on the table, they take their ball and go home. Those numbers from Tom Caron and Nesson, by the way. And in the second half, look no further than the bullpen that you were shoring up at the trade deadline by bringing in Garcia and Sims. They were 13 for 31 in save opportunities in the second half. 13 of 31. You were 10 games up at the All-Star break, and you pissed away 18 right off the bat because you can't figure out a bullpen. Do not have a major league bullpen. That's so embarrassing. Like, how does this franchise not look itself in the mirror and say that's embarrassing? They don't, because this ownership group says, well, we're sustainable. We didn't pay the luxury tax. That's such horseshit, man. You look at the other teams in the pay grade of the Red Sox. I'm talking the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Mets. They're not looking at themselves in the mirror saying we're sustainable. The Mets are 17 games over 500, and they're pissed at where they are. They should be better. And here are the Red Sox, trying to get to a 500 record, barely avoiding the third straight year of 78 and 84. And they're patting themselves on the back because they're sustainable and they've got a young core. Bullshit, man. I know the farm system was terrible 3-4 years ago. I know that. Now these guys are ready to make the major leagues. But we're not talking about just trading prospects here and keeping them off limits for a couple years. We're talking about a team with one of the highest payrolls in baseball, a team that has no excuse not to spend money in free agency, except for the grand old fact that they don't fucking want to. And that shit has to end now. It has to. Craig Breslow went on EEI this morning and saying, we've got to get better. We've got to do, we got to find a right-handed bat. We got to get some balance in this lineup. You got to splash some cash. You're in a great situation where you are almost having an influx of young guys. You probably have one too many young infielders. That's why Tristan Casas will be on the trade block this winter. And that can open some things up for you in terms of young pitching. But there are two top-of-the-line Cy Young Award winners out there in free agency, right around 30, 31 years old, which is something that you used to not touch. But now you see the teams that are going on to win World Series, and they are touching 30, 31-year-old starting pitchers in free agency. It's not the taboo thing anymore. You've got to put that to bed when you can't make the postseason. So the rumor was, Tristan Casas for one of those young pitchers in Seattle. Sure, I love it. I like Casas as a player. He just had a 3-homer day the other day. But he's almost expendable here. And when you are a franchise that has not been able to develop any kind of starting pitching in your farm system for at least 15 and really going on 20 years now, and you've got an influx of young infielders ready to play in the major leagues, you can't be too picky. These are the only ways you can get young pitching is through the trade market. You can't develop them, and they don't go to market. The other two guys I'm looking at, Blake Snell and Corbin Burns. Everyone's going to be looking at those guys. Corbin's 30. Blake Snell's 31. They've both won a Cy Young in the last 3 years. There's no excuse for the Red Sox not to make a serious push for one of these two guys. And to be quite honest with you, at this point, there's no excuse for them not to sign one of these two guys. And I like Snell's numbers a little bit better. I think Corbin Burns is the best pitcher in the AL East with Baltimore. But the numbers that I look at have been going down the last few seasons. While he's still been super effective, the FIP has gone up. The homers per 9 has gone up, which I never like pitching at Fenway. The strikeouts to walk has gone down. So there's a lot to be concerned about there. Not that he won't be an elite pitcher, but you look at everything. Innings, strikeouts, ERA plus, FIP, WHIP. They're all going in the wrong direction, and he's north of 30. It's going to be 30 when you sign him. Still an elite pitcher, though. I'm not too dismayed by the Red Sox signing him to a 5-year deal. It might bite you in the last 2 years, but he should still be an elite top-of-the-line pitcher. The other one's Blake Snell, who has won a Cy Young now in both leagues and can get pretty anemic in the years in between. But my God, the numbers, man. The numbers going in the right direction. Strikeouts per 9 going up the last 3 years. Hits per 9 going down. Led the league in that category last year, by the way, when he won the Cy Young. WHIP going down. FIP going down. ERA plus going in the right direction. Well, it wasn't as good this year as it was last year, but overall going up. Strikeouts per 9 going in the right direction. Walks going down. Blake Snell is still a guy who is at the top of his game at 31 years old. He's had a weird last couple of seasons where he's looked like an absolute bum in some of those years with San Diego, and he'll look like a bum for half the season, and the other half he'll look like a Cy Young Award winner. So yeah, you got to have some balance in this lineup. I think they make a serious push at Alex Bregman, and Dever starts DHing for you, but it's going to take more than a right-handed bat, because I think you've got some good pieces in the rotation, but you don't have enough. And that is what kind of faltered towards the end of the season. Tanner Houck hit his career high in innings like right after the All-Star break. Cutter Crawford, he's never thrown that much in his life. Brian Bayo, disappointment this year. Disappointment. But you add some insurance of someone like a Corbin Burns or a Blake Snell, a bona fide stud at the top of your rotation, that takes a load off everybody. And it seems like a weird baseball cliche, but it seems to work in every example you look at of playoff teams over the last few years. When the rotation is better, it's much easier to work out your bullpen. Much easier. And guys find defined roles. They find the pitch selection that they need to use. And all of a sudden, your Jag guys in the bullpen are just that much better. And all of a sudden, you got a good bullpen. But 13 for 31 on save opportunities is atrocious. Just horrifically bad. This was a team that was feeling real good about itself in June and July. They closed the gap on the Yankees big time. They had a great month of June where they were one of the best teams in baseball. The Yankees were one of the worst teams in baseball in June. Going into the All-Star break, plenty of momentum. Going into the trade deadline was still momentum, but knowing you needed to work out the bullpen pieces, all of those pieces failed. Sims, Garcia, Jansen for some depth on the bench, all of them failed. So it's not a great season for Craig Breslow, year one. I still believe he is a baseball guy who played, almost 15 years in the league. I know not all Boston sports commentators believe that, but this has to change now. And it's such a simple thing in free agency if the Red Sox can just nut up and say, you know what? We don't love the luxury tax, but you know what we don't like more? Missing the fucking playoffs. Because that is becoming an annual tradition. In fact, I don't want to say they were lucky, but it was a fluke thing that they were within 2 wins of the World Series in 2021. It didn't feel like a fluke at the time, but when you miss the playoffs the next 3 years, that's a fluke. Guys had some career years. You got the last ounce of good baseball out of a couple of guys, and you had a real chance to make it to the World Series. You were an underdog. You probably shouldn't have beaten Tampa, but you did. You beat the Yankees in a one-game playoff at home. You almost didn't make the postseason altogether. And you have not made any moves since then to make your team better. You have only made your team worse. Eovaldi walks, wins a World Series. Schwarber walks, leads the league in homers. He's probably going to win a World Series this year. They have no one to blame but themselves. They have taken a pussy approach to free agency, and they are now reaping the rewards of that. And what I'm fascinated by is that Alex Cora has signed this extension, because he was playing with it during the season of, if they're not going to commit to bringing some better players on this team, I'm not doing this shit anymore. And he signs an extension right around the All-Star break when things are going well for the Red Sox, and now he's locked in. I heard Coley Mick say this for Section 10, and I wholeheartedly agree with him in that there has to be some sort of agreement, or else there wouldn't be any reason for Cora to extend himself midseason, of some sort of agreement of, we're going to spend some money. We're going to bring in some guys this year. I don't know if it's going to be Juan Soto, but they'll absolutely be in that sweepstakes. And it wouldn't help their lineup balance in terms of a right-handed hitter, but he is one of the best hitters in baseball. But they need to go out and get some guys. And for the first time in a couple of years, you're far enough away from the luxury tax that I don't want to be hearing that bullshit anymore. And you have some trade chips. You have some great prospects, one or two of them who are going to be on the roster next year. Roman Anthony might make this team out of camp. Marcelo Meyer, you will see on this team next year, maybe before roster expansion. There's no excuse to not go out and get some of these guys and make your team better. Jordan Montgomery wanted to play here. And maybe Scott Boras did fuck it up because Montgomery fired him after signing with Arizona. But that was a guy who was a top of the line pitcher who just won the World Series, who wanted to play here, and you couldn't get it done. I'm running out of patience. And so are these fans, man. Go see Fenway Park. They're running out of patience here. And so is the manager, and so are the players. It's put up or shut up time this winter right now. I will not shut up with Pete Souza. He's joining the show next. Thing actually. Pete, you were talking about my OCD. This is big time. I got one going on right now. Okay. So the Bruins had their 100th anniversary season last year. And can you talk into the mic, please? Even if you're going to talk shit about me, will you just let me tell the story?
People want like a regular conversation. That's what we got here.
But here it is. Here it is, because this is a peek inside the madness going on inside my brain. I'll give you two actually to drive the conversation today of how fucked up Cam Stewart's brain is. So the Bruins did 100th anniversary jerseys last year. Only last year they had 3 sets. I got one of each because I wanted to commemorate that. And they were awesome. I don't know if you saw them, but the black one, it's got like glittery gold going around the sleeves, and the numbers are in white with this gold trim, glittery gold trim around it. And then they had this like kind of chic throwback one that's like that cream color with some brown and yellow, like their original colors. It looked badass. And the spoked B, it had 1924. And I got that one, the heritage one, with David Pasternak on the back. Big time goal scorer, scored 60 goals a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Finesse guy. And then I got that one because my favorite defenseman, hard-nosed defenseman, puck carrier, Charlie McAvoy, they only had his in the black one. So I was like, all right, whatever. I'll just get the black one in McAvoy. And for the whole time, it didn't feel right.
Roy McAvoy, Tin Cup. Go ahead.
The whole time, it didn't feel right. Like Pasternak should be in the black one. It's a little more futuristic. He's like a guy that wears pit vipers in warm-ups for the outdoor games. You know what I mean? Like he should be wearing that. But I sucked it up the whole year. And then the other day, I noticed a big sale going on. And this time, they did have Pasternak in black, and they did have McAvoy in the heritage one. So they were both like more than $100 off. So I ordered both of them.
So now you have 5.
So that I can switch them around and sell the original ones I had on eBay.
Let me tell you.
It bothered me so much.
I will say that I sort of get that.
Yeah.
I sort of get that. Yeah, that's like
the vibes were off.
Yeah.
It just didn't feel right.
I get that. I don't think that's crazy. You know, I don't like the color combinations that the Bruins have at all.
Black and gold?
No, I don't. I'll tell you,
Really?
I don't like.
This seems like a tough one to hate.
I hate the Eagles colors now. I grew up with
Really?
Kelly Green.
Well, the Kelly Green is better, but
It's amazing. What they have now, I do not like it
I
at
think the Eagles
all.
have good uniforms. Man.
No, I don't
I
like.
think it's one of those where it's
the
like
dark green, like it's almost like teal, or is it aqua? I do not like it at all.
I think the white ones look good.
It's almost lent to like I'm just not like it has hurt like how much I like the team.
Dude, really?
Yeah,
It sucks when your team has bad uniforms. The Patriots have bad uniforms.
I'm a big uniform guy. Like that's one of the reasons why I think I love navy blue and I love Villanova so much, because I grew up just like at the knee or at the foot of the program, and it was always navy blue and navy blue and baby blue and white. The Phillies,
Eagles,
powder blue, awesome.
The Eagles, what it does to me, or what I think of it as, like, it's one of those that's probably too good to get rid of unless you're going back to the Kelly Green.
Yeah, if you could, and I don't understand.
I think that way about the Ravens too.
I will tell you this.
Like, it's fine, but
when I worked for the 76ers, when I
Uh-huh.
started working there, it was post Pat Croce, Pirate, Allen Iverson jerseys.
I
And-
liked those. I know a lot of people didn't around there, but
But here's the thing: you had the best jerseys in the NBA, like those
the
Philadelphia,
black
like
ones?
the Mo Cheeks and Dr. J, like the '83 and
You're talking about those.
the red, white,
yes,
and blue.
Those are great. Those are
Yeah,
great.
so
People love
it's
Phila.
Stefanski took over as GM, and obviously the play on the floor would indicate that was like his first order of business, like getting those uniforms back. Like he was like, we have to be able to do this, and he got them back within like I don't know 3 years. Like he
Dude.
petitioned the league. It takes a minute. You know?
And I don't even necessarily think they're like some of the best uniforms in the league, like you do. And I don't like the Sixers, but Phila, classic.
Those are awesome, dude.
Classic.
I mean, that's Wilt Chamberlain. Those Wilt
Yes.
Chamberlain
Yes.
uniforms, the 67 Sixers, unbelievable. Wally Jones, Wilt Chamberlain. Yeah, really, really unbelievable stuff. Hal Greer.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm really nervous, Pete. I was
Why?
talking about this to Mike.
BYU Baylor.
No, I can't even think past today, because after I'm done with your show, I'm going to see if I can trade in my car. There's a car I've identified, and I like couldn't sleep last night thinking about this process. And like, I'm so intimidated by it.
Why?
I really hope they're not watching live. I've never done it. I've only bought off family friends and things
Is
like
it a
that.
car? Are you going to a car dealership?
Yep.
Do you have good credit?
Yeah.
Good
And
enough,
I'm going to
right?
buy it. I'm going to.
So, but so they're not going to laugh you out of there. Look, I have had bad credit. That's no judgment. What I'm saying is, if you have decent credit,
Yeah. No, I think I have
then
good
there's
credit.
nothing
I
to be
always pay my
scared
credit
of.
card on time.
you have
so.
nothing. You have nothing to be scared of.
I know,
Trust
but
me, dude.
I'm
I've
just like,
called in there with
I
bad
don't know if
credit.
I have to go in. Part of it is how they assess my car, because I've gotten it assessed by another dealership in town for a price that I was like, yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I should be getting for this car. Then I get it appraised, online, and it's less. And I'm like, what if they're, cross-referencing it with what it should be on Kelley Blue Book?
So you have no idea what they're going to give you.
No.
Walk out.
That's the thing. That's what I'm scared of. I'm going to have to do that.
Yeah, you just have to walk out.
Because I got me, I got a tight budget here. Yeah. And this car, it seems almost too good to be true. I've gotten the Carfax and everything. It's great. It's a Toyota, 140,000 on it, but Toyota, whatever.
Yeah.
Should be able to get a lot out of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like right at 13 grand. And my
That's the beauty.
budget is like 3,000 or so. And I'm hoping they appraise the car right at about 10,000. I think that's what it probably should be. So it's like a really tight window.
You have to, there's nothing better than having a really tight budget, like literally, because it's disappointing, but it's like, hey, I have to leave.
I know that is kind of an out for me.
So it's easy.
I'm so desperate for a car though. Although I took the Acura out today, man, because I got to bring it straight to the dealership. Ran great.
Oh, it did?
Yeah, ran great. I haven't driven it in like 2.5 weeks.
And it ran great.
Yeah. But
I mean, I'm dumb enough where I'd be like, I'm fine.
I fucking love that car, man. I love that car.
Why don't you keep driving it?
Because I don't know what's going to happen to it.
Have you taken that to a mechanic?
Yeah, two.
Okay.
Two. And I've got differing answers. And so that's why I was like, you know what? Why don't I trade this in before I really get screwed out of some money here? But I was like so nervous last night when I set up the appointment. Like I was like, why am I so bent out of shape about this? But like I couldn't stop.
It's just a first. You just got to go through with it. I mean, it's reasonable anxiety, but it's a shame that that you have
it is that.
Yeah, I mean, but you just got to go through with it. Sometimes that's always good in life. I think
I'm thinking about bringing you with me, just a kid.
I would love that, dude.
This is my dad, Nate.
God damn it.
He was young. Smoking stunted my growth.
I was just talking, speaking of young, I was just talking to Drake Toll. I did the Locked On Big 12. We were talking about you. Why? I told him how great you were. I swear to God.
And he pushed back big time.
No, he didn't, because I initiated it. He knew not to mess with me. Drake's my guy.
Man. What'd you guys talk about? Big 12?
We talked about the Big 12. He asked good questions. I told him, as I always do, I'm honest with him. I'm like, you're divisive, you're a lightning rod, but you're extremely compelling.
Yeah, see, that's where like Drake and I did good work. We did.
Yeah.
We had a good show on ESPN Central Texas. And
yeah.
I like going on with him still, but I think he gets bugged that I don't go as hard in some of my opinions as he does. I try to find the gray area.
Well, I think he was
jaded. The libertarian in me.
I think he was jaded by experiences in this market in particular.
Sure.
So
like this is not a cutthroat market.
He's got some resentments. And whether they're justifiable or not, I don't know. But he is, boy, is he good. I mean, it's just like you are, but boy, he's got something to say.
He's better than me.
He says it. Well, I would be curious to know how, when I listen to him doing Locked On, it's very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
But he's a lot wrestler too. I mean,
yes.
There is so as somebody who's thoughtful and knows sports, I'm like, does this guy really mean this? But either way, he's got a take, man. He's good.
What's your favorite uniform in the NFL?
I like your old school Patriots. I love the Oilers. I like the Giants uniforms a lot.
Like the plain regular ones?
The Giants?
The blue?
Yeah, I do. Okay. It's just a great color scheme.
Remember when they had those red ones? That
I
red alternate? Those were so dumb.
I hated those. Stupid. I hated
I do like
those.
the boldness of all blue, or just an all blue look at home and then not wearing blue on the jersey on the road. I think that's bold.
Do you know whose helmets and jerseys really are awesome, but they just suck? Or the Bengals? The Bengals helmets.
That's the
when they were playing the Chiefs in week 2. I was staring at the helmet. I was
the
like,
white helmet. Was they wearing the white helmet?
No, they were wearing the regular, their uniform ones. The orange with the Bengal things. And I was like, my mind was blown at how awesome they were.
Have you just been watching McMahon the last 2 days?
Yeah, I watched it yesterday, and I had a volleyball game last night, so then I watched half of it when I came home.
Okay, so I'm watching Hernandez thing. They had 2 last week, and I'm watching it on Hulu this morning. I finished the 3rd episode, and then it's done. They only released 1 this week.
Give it a grade.
It's now kind of dragging out. It's
What about Terry Hernandez?
B minus so far. B minus.
Is Terry in it?
She is in it a little bit more in this next episode that you haven't seen.
Oh,
but like they're just really. We kind of talked about.
She's like the microwave.
Maybe that they're not
dude.
necessarily
like
even
Vinnie
making
Johnson.
stuff up, but they're just doing stuff that we can't really prove.
Yeah.
The same way I use the example of The Crown, and it's talking between the Queen and the Prime Minister. No one knows what happened there. Like they're really all in on. Like the whole thing is basically about Aaron Hernandez being gay.
Yeah.
And again, I think that's probably true. I don't think there's reason for this high school friend to lie, but like now they've got him doing all kinds of other stuff on the side. And it's just like, we don't know this.
Yeah.
And like, there is more to Aaron Hernandez's character, good, bad, or otherwise, than him just being gay. You know what I mean? Like he was also a hothead with a weird upbringing, I should say, with hanging around with the wrong crowd big time at home. And like, it's just all about him being gay. And I'm just like, but there's just more to the Aaron Hernandez story than that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I got into it with Christy, my girlfriend, about that a little bit. Like we were watching, I watched the first episode with her again. And I was just like, this is a lot. Like this, it just is.
Yes.
Yeah. And she was like, oh, why does it bother you? I'm like, all right. Like, I'm not like going
no,
there.
But it's just like, that's my thing is I thought in the first episode, it's like, okay, we've established this.
Yeah.
He's got these urges, whatever you need to call them in the show. Right. Yeah. But like, there's more to like just being closeted doesn't make you kill people.
And I'll tell you,
and have this rage. Like he clearly had a rage problem anyway.
And as somebody who's been around like locker rooms, and I've been lucky enough to be in pro locker rooms, there's like some of that, but it's not always like it's like the Freud thing. Like sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. Like there's a lot of shit talking. There's a lot of like, it's not that deep. Like some people want it to be deeper than it is. There are closeted gay guys in all pro sports. There's no question.
Yes.
There have been for decades. They're not all over, and not everything they say has that much weight to it. Trust me, these guys are not that well thought out. And you could say there's a subconscious, but I disagree.
Yeah, and like one thing I will say is probably accurate when they say like the F slur and they say something's gay.
Yeah, there's
a lot.
That stuff kind of stinks.
And I'm like, that's also just like kind of the way people talked in 2010. You know what I mean? 2009, 2008. Like, it's much different in that respect now. But now it's like, oh, look at this horribly fostered atmosphere.
I totally agree. I mean? It's like, almost like when you watch
picking the wrong things here.
Like if you watch Wedding Crashers today,
right?
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff where you're like, ooh. Yeah. It's just like,
I mean, a lot of those like mid 2000s.
Yeah. And it's good. I appreciate that we've evolved as a society where that stuff feels weird.
Right.
I don't like it, but at the same time, I understand why it was when it was,
right.
And
like, and that's
it's
why
not an indictment on the movie or whoever wrote it.
And I don't know if those will hold up because all of a sudden your audience isn't those people who lived through that.
Yeah.
Lived through it. Like just existed in that time and went to public school and bullshit with your friends. You know what I mean? Like I used the F word.
Oh my God. My brothers are all the time.
Times,
and man. I don't use it anymore.
Yeah, I don't say it. And I used to say, oh, that's gay. Yeah. And I didn't really mean like, oh, that's something of someone from the same sex being sexually attracted to the same sex. We like even when we called someone that or called someone gay, it was
what it takes.
It didn't mean that, but I also understand that it's 2024. You can't just keep saying
also
that.
what it took for me and for my brother, I can tell you, we had this guy. My computer just fell. He's a family friend and he's like a comedian. He's somewhat successful. His name's Todd Glass, and he came out as gay in 2010. And my brothers kind of knew before he came out, but now he's very like, hey, you don't say this, and here's why you don't say it.
Mm-hmm.
I've been informed. You know what I mean? And he was the messenger for me,
Yeah.
really. Like, so I know better now. Like, I
Yeah.
know that if I say that, I could hurt people's feelings.
Right.
It's just like,
kind of the same thing with me.
I never
you
knew
get
that.
friends that come out, and it's
Yeah.
like, okay, well then I'm not doing that anymore.
Totally. I knew that.
And it's just like all that to say, it doesn't need to be focused on this one thing. Like,
Yeah. I just wish they could
Aaron
make it about
Hernandez had
Dennis
plenty
and
of other
Terry.
issues.
I would watch that all night long.
Maybe that's the spinoff. Dennis and Terry. With like the kids growing up.
Oh my!
That would be great.
Oh my gosh!
That'd be fucking incredible.
I can't tell how excited I am.
I'm already over time, but you know what it reminds me of? You've seen The Fighter.
Oh yeah.
The best part, bar none, of the
Oh, my
movie is the
God.
family
Oh.
and the sisters. And I showed that to Grace and before she had ever been to Boston, and she loved that. And I was like, I give a lot of shit to movies and TV shows that get the Boston accent wrong and the things that we talk about wrong. They nailed that. The mother and the sisters.
It's
you
awesome.
owe me $200. You don't talk to me in my kitchen. Like fucking electric. She thinks she's all high and mighty because she went to college. That dumb slut. Like fucking, it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. Oh, we should talk about The Fighter at some point. I fucking love that movie. And I think it's my favorite.
I think we should do an extra, like a rewatchable, sports rewatchables, and I think we should just.
I think there's room for a whatever it is for us to have a show.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
I think there's room for that.
Yeah.
Room on the schedule? I don't know.
Yeah.
We're both pretty busy, but I think there's a way we can work that out.
Yeah.
That's Pete Souza. He's on at 1:00. Pete Souza show on YouTube. I have to apologize to Zach because I'm over time. This is the Cam Show. We'll be back live tomorrow and every weekday at 11 a.m. Central Time right here on the Cam Show YouTube. And then you can find us wherever you find your podcast. We'll see you tomorrow.